Hope we enjoyed our break. This is the second class, we're having today on the course ENT 101, Introduction to Entrepreneurship. So, we're going to be talking about, as a thumbnail has stated, we're going to be talking about feasibility studies, some myth about entrepreneurship, financial implication of starting up as an entrepreneur. All this we'll be discussing tonight. So I'm just going to give you some time to do a thing, sending notification to all members of the class. So we can kick the ball rolling. Online because I posted it about past 5. 24 hours I'll be having class by 6. I think you were not online. Maybe that was why. I can get that. Okay, I'm just trying to fix my. Okay, I think we are. Good to go. So I'm just gonna quickly fix one or two things, and I can set the ball rolling. All right. So this is module 2, and we are treating, business environments under module 2, and we're going to be talking about the internal, the tax environment, the political environment, and the likes. Just to remind us again, the course is ENT 101, and we're talking about, talking about a lot of things about entrepreneurship. That's what the course is all about. Introduction to entrepreneurship. So we're talking about a lot of things about entrepreneurship at large. We've spoken about a lot of things in our very fourth class, and we were able to discuss who an entrepreneur is, who an intra. There's a difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. So we're able to discuss basic definitions. A lot of persons gave definition, just like economics. We have a lot of definitions by a lot of persons as well. So we're able to look at a lot of definitions, and we're also able to talk about the function, talk about the characteristics of an entrepreneur, and the functions or characteristics of an entrepreneur. All this we also talked about in our previous class. Yeah, Miss Justina, you can always go back to the previous class and can catch up. Whatever it is you have missed, you can always catch up on the previous class, and we are good to go. So now we are in module 2. That was the module 1. Now we are in module 2, and we're going to be talking about the physical research, the business environment generally. You as an entrepreneur, you have to know, discover. You have, just like we discussed in philosophy of science, like as a scientist, you have to have an inquiring mind. Your mind has to be open to things. You have to ask questions. The same thing with entrepreneur. See things not just on the superficial level, but see things, you know, on the level whereby you want to ask questions, you want to find out, you want to carry out your observations and physical research, and bank on identifying an opportunity, doing your physical research and capitalizing on the opportunity. That's about what we discussed in our previous class. So okay, now we're going to be focusing more on the business environment itself. And this is the first business environment we're going to be talking about. This is Mr. Jola. Okay, I think we have somebody here. Damilola. We have Think Big. Yeah, okay, Mr. Jola is also here. It's great to have you all join us tonight. So without wasting much of our time, because I want us to go cover a lot of ground, and so we can do this as fast as possible, and we can all retire for today. Tomorrow is Monday, and Monday work stuff. So we have business environment, the module one, module two. Now we're talking about unit one, which is the internal business environment. So we're discussing. So business organization operate in an environment where you know they compete with organizations. Definitely, there's competition. We call competitors. There's competition for resources. Organizations operate not only locally at home but also internationally in countries around the world. Operating in business environment is uncertain, and the environment itself is also uncertain. We talked about uncertainty in business. The level of uncertainty is always there in business. You can't be sure. It's a game of 50-50. You can actually, you can't be sure. That's just its uncertainty. So now, the nature of business environment is a set of forces. Talking about business environment, it's a set of forces and conditions within and outside. Talking about the environment now, the set of forces within, inside, and outside the organization's boundaries, and that the potentials to affect the way the organization operates. These forces, these catalysts, they are within and they are inside, they are within and without, inside and outside, and they actually determine the boundaries and the potentials of how the organization can operate. Now, these forces and conditions change from time to time. Now, the business environment presents opportunities which organizations can take advantage and threats that the organization should avoid. So the business environment now comprises of opportunities and threats. There are opportunities the business can take advantage of, and that's what makes an entrepreneur. And there are also potential threats that every entrepreneur should avoid. For example, changes in the environment, such as the introduction of new technology. I don't know. Let me just quickly say a thing about introduction to new technology. You know, there's a there's this program I really interested in. I do a lot, which is blogging. So as a writer, I'm actually a writer. I work on international platform as well. So as a writer, writing is very interesting. Um, it's a very interesting act for me. So there was this time that Chat GTP was newly introduced, and all writers were like, blah 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 blah. This is a threat. This is that. This is because of that's newly introduced technology. ChatGTP with ChatGTP, you can just give Chat. Okay, what is ChatGTP all about? ChatGTP is a AI, artificial intelligence. I think Mr. Judas, you should know about that. And if anybody knows what I'm talking about, you can also let me know in the comment section. Chat GTP, Chat GTP. It's an artificial intelligence. And what are artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence are machines. Yes, they are software applications, system applications that this ChatGPT runs like Google, but you have to give it prompt. You have to tell it what to do. You can ask ChatGPT what is Nigeria. To start to type on the screen, you see it. So a lot of writers were panicking. Google was also giving their Google was also giving signs that if you use it as a writer, they'll definitely ban you, they'll block you. Okay, you can imagine it's taking over Google. Okay, that is actually not that is not happening anytime soon anyway. That's actually not happening anytime soon. But let's just not go into that actually. But it's actually a very cool app. I understand that it's a very cool application that can help you in doing your research work, can help you write books, can even help you create scripts for videos and a lot of things. So as an entrepreneur now, it can definitely change business environment because of it's a new technology, and it's either you use it to your advantage or it brings down your business. So that is one thing about business environment, and one of the factors is the change in environment. So now we have that. So we move to structure of business environment. The environment of business is divided into two sections. We have the internal environment and we have the external environment. And the difference between the external and the internal environment is based on whether or not the factors are outside or inside the organization, and whether or not it is within the immediate control of the organization. Now, talking about the internal organization, this consists of a set of forces and conditions within the organization boundaries that have the potential to affect the way the organization operates. Speaking of the internal environment now, you know, forces within the organization that that has the potential to affect the organization operation. It consists of the owner, the board of director, employees, the organization culture, physical work environment, and various departments that make up the organization. So that are the things that can affect after internal factors, that are the things that can affect that has the potential of affecting the productivity of the organization. So we have that as that. So we have the external business environment. The external business environment consists. So we have the external business consists of a set of forces and conditions outside the organization boundaries that have the potential to affect, just like the internal, and this is external. And we have the external environment can further be subdivided into two, into tax and general environment. Now, the external and business environment can be subdivided into two, which is the tax and the general environment. The tax environment now is the aspect of the external environment and is also referred to as the immediate or operational environment. Is the set of forces and conditions that originate with suppliers, distributors, customers, and competitors. That's the tax environment. These factors and conditions affect the organization's ability to obtain input and dispose of the output. The tax environment contains the forces that have the most immediate and direct effect because they pressure the influence of the manager on a daily basis. So, which environment has the immediate and direct effect on the management in the tax environment? Because it has to do with the supplier, the competitors, and things manager must think about every single day. So we have that. Now, on the other hand, the general environment now consists of factors such as legal, economic, political, social, cultural, technological, and ethical factors which affect business organization operation and which emanate from local, national, and international sources. So we have that as that. So I think that concludes for unit one. So we have summary. The business environment is everything around the business organization which can impact on the performance of the organization. That is the business environment. Everything around the business organization that has the capacity to impact the performance of the organization. So as we saw in examining the business environment, we distinguish between the internal and the external factors which can affect the operation of an organization. Now, the internal environment consists of the management teamwork, so the management team, the employees, structure, and organization consisting of the various departments of the firm. And we have the external, which we have. So we have the external, which is also subdivided into two. We have under its subdivision, we have the tax environment and we have the general environment. I would say the tax environment is the one that has the most immediate influence on management of an organization. So we have that as that. So we then move to the unit 2 of our module 2. So under unit 2 we have suppliers, we have tax environment. This is more of explanation, breaking down of tax environment. We already said something about tax environment, and we talked about the suppliers. The suppliers are individuals and companies that provide an organization with input resources such as raw material, and employees. All these produce and services. All these are more of input. This is what the company takes from the outside, their suppliers. So we have that. So we have distributors too. They are organizations that help other organizations sell their goods or services to customers. So the decision that managers make about how to distribute product or customer can have important effect on organizational performance. So we have the suppliers, the distributors, the customers who are the one that receives from the distributors, and they are the consumer. Customers are individuals and groups that buy the goods and services of an organization. So that is what it is. We have competitors. They are competitors. Competitors are organizations that produce similar goods and services. Just like we have Milo, we have Bonfita, we have Overteam. So they produce similar goods and services to our organization. Just like we have MTN, Etisalat, Glo, and Airtel. So strong competitors. They can be referred to as rivalry. So rivalry between competitors is potentially the most threatening force that organization must deal with. So one of the most threatening force organization must deal with is the rivalry between competitors. So we have that as that. So now the tax environment consists of the suppliers, customer, the distributors, and the competitors. And these institutions affect the operations and the everyday activities of the firm. Suppliers are those organizations that supply raw materials. Customers are people around the organization that buy the goods. We have competitors are business environment that produce similar or same goods and services to set of customers. So we have that as that under the unit 2 of module 2. So we then move to unit 3 of module 3 of module 2, where we have the political environment. Basically, as according to the name, the political system, government in democratic states, and three branches of function, how politics affect. Political environment is an important dimension of the business environment, which affects business enterprises. It affects business enterprise in a number of ways. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the key aspects of political environment, which include political system, government in democratic states branches. All this we're talking about in this unit. So we have nature of political system. And the political environment is mainly concerned with the type of leadership a nation adopts. Political processes shape a society law, which constrain the activities of organization and thus create both opportunities and threats. Now, this is how politics affects businesses. Politics is not concerned with business. Politics is concerned with the leadership, the type of leadership a nation adopts. Now, when there is a leadership, when there is a structure for adoption of leadership in a nation, now these are political processes. They are the one that political for shaping the law of a country, of a society. Now, this law now has to do with whether it will positively favor businesses or to affect. You can imagine when CBN gave the law that no cash, that should all go on cashless policy. It really affected businesses. CBN does not really might not have put into consideration businesses, but generally, giving the instruction generally. Now that instruction has a lot. Exactly, the policy they put in place has a lot to it affects. It has a lot to do with businesses. You can imagine in Nigeria here, a lot of businesses suffer. Major a lot of businesses. Like apart from POS people, they are the ones that were thriving so much then. POS people they are the millionaires then. You know, you had to use cash to buy cash. It was not funny at all. So now, the nature now of political system now, the political system is concerned about setting the law and leadership and law and all this law structure and everything has implemented policies and that can either affect or that can affect businesses. So we have government. This is concerned with the pursuit and exercise of power, the power to make decisions which affect the lives of substantial number of people, be it a local, state, national, or even international level. So government may also be referred to an institution through power tend to formally and legitimately exercised. So all this we're talking about, how does this relate to business that has been established just a moment ago? Now, types of political system. So we have we can distinguish two main political systems, which are the authoritarian system and the political system. However, between these two, there could be other dimensions. Now, we have authoritarian political system. The authoritarian political system could be an individual, a monarch, where we have kings, we have obas, or other powerful individuals, or a group of individuals. We have political party or military junta, who may have assumed power, political power in a variety of way, birth, election, or coup, in which, in once in power, the individual or group tend to act so as to limit degree of participation in others, making decisions. Basically, authoritarian political system, just like we've said, authoritarian, somebody who are emerged as an individual who is in position of power and is the one giving the rules. So we have the individual or group will tend to act as so to limit the degree of participation by others in the process of decision making, even to the extent of monopolizing the process altogether and permitting no opposition to occur. Where there is the case, where this is the case, society often describe it as being totalitarian. We have the democratic political system. And in the democratic political system, it's assumed that, okay, Ms. Justina said, okay, okay, it's awesome. And that means you are following. Okay, we have about 5 persons streaming this live, and just 3 persons has liked. If you are here to like this live, and like this live stream, do well to smash the like button. So we have, in a democratic political system, it's assumed that as far as possible, conflict should be resolved by rational decisions between the various parties concerned, with the final solution being accepted voluntarily. We'll talk about democracy is more of dialogue. So according to um, Warrington and Britain in 2009, democracy means uh, far more than just popular government or a system of regular election. Democratic approach to government implies existence of complex array of institutions and key. So, in a nutshell, democracy has a lot to do with putting the people into consideration. You know, dialogue. If people are not cool with things, they can always protest, and government can look into that. System, it's a system whereby we have things like pressure group. We have all these systems. All these things are like that. So now, under democratic political system, we have what we call, the electoral system, which is the process. It's reasonable for organizing election in the country. So under democratic system, we have what we call the electoral system, which is the process that has to do with organizing election in a country. So we have that as that. So we have so Warrington and Brinton again, so in 2009, suggests that the country electoral system should exhibit the following features. So we have the features of electoral system. We have free media, a secret ballot. The ballot is all out where we cast our votes, and we'll put those things in the ballots. Call them ballot box. But the ballot itself, it should be like a secret place whereby you to template for whichever it is you are voting for. A system of regular election. We have basic freedom of speech, movement, and assembly, freedom for coercion, and absence of illegal electoral practices. So we have that is that. So we have the party system. A true democratic dispensation, the system operates through the party system. Candidates are presented to the electorate through political parties. The party system just has to do with when APC, PDP presents. There's this primaries they run in their party. A lot of persons are willing to are gunning for that simple. They organize primaries in the party. Everybody buys tickets, and in the party in-house election is done, then one candidate will have to be presented to the electoral body as the representative of the party. So that's what that basically means. A representative assembly Okay, an important feature of democratic government is the existence of representative decision making body which consists of a group of individuals chosen by a country citizens to make important decisions on their behalf. So we have a representative assembly which actually has to do with constituted body of authorities making decision on behalf of the people. So we have that. So we have the functions of government, and there are three major branches of the functions of government, and the branches of the functions are the executive functions. You know, governing is not only about making decisions, also about ensuring that these decisions are put into effect in order to achieve the government objective. Implementing executive now has to do with implementing governmental decisions. So we have that as that. So we have the judiciary. Judiciary has to do with the interpretation, interpreting the laws of the government, interpretation of laws. They are responsible for that. And we have judiciary are more of the lawyers, the police officers, and they interpret the law. The lawyers and the barristers, people that are responsible for interpretation of the law. So we have that as that. So then we move to D. I think there's something that is missing. The legislative. These are the people that are responsible for making the law. So we have checks and balances in democracy. Checks and balances definitely just means the separation of power, whereby one body is not autonomous of power, another body can check on the activities of the other body. Now, as will be evident from the analysis above, democracy implies the existence of a system of checks and balances, arrangement which serves curb government action and resist its influence on day-to-day lives of citizens. Now, the resistance on the action of the states national level can be divided into two types: political and So we have the political checks and balances, separation of power, bicameral legislature, particularly the notion that the three arms of government meant are separate arms and decisions require the occurrence of all branches, even though they are separate. All branches have to be aware of the decisions that any branch is about to take. So under the political checks and balances, now we have the bicameral legislation having to be accepted by both houses and subject to scrutiny. The territorial division of power, whether under a federal arrangement or through the evolution, power of regional bodies, local authorities, we have the supreme. Nationalism is a further development. So under the political now, we have the separation of power, we have the bicameral legislature, and we have the territorial division of power. So we have that. So we have a model of policy process, government and intelligence. Okay, I think this is more of a diagram. You can just go through that in our leisure time. So we have now, notwithstanding these difficulties, it is important for us to know that businesses and for businesses themselves to have some understanding of the structure of decision making. It's very important that you as an entrepreneur you have an understanding of what political terrain is like, so you can know government decisions and how government decisions are made, who is important in shaping those decisions, and how influence can be brought to bear on decision making process. So we have a conclusion for this. For discussion above, it is clear that the action and decision of government affect business operations. So that is certain and that is established. So we have that as that. So we have unit 4 for module 2 now. The legal environment, which we have, the main content, types of law. And we say legal, it has to do with law. Law, you have the types of laws relating to both individuals and organizations. You can classify them into two ways. We have the international and the national one, and the public and the private. We have criminal and civil. These are the laws guiding individuals and organizations. The international and the national, public and the private, criminal and the civil. So with that being said, Let's just look what public and private law is now. According to what we have, in reference to the name, public and private law, simply put, public law is the law which concerns the states, whether in international arrangement or dispute or in relationship between the states. And public law has to be the law that concerns states. Now, private law is the law governing relationship between individuals and comprises laws in respect of contracts, property, trust, and family, according to the name private and public. So we have criminal related to legal wrong, criminal offense, a breach of public duty punishable by the state on behalf of the society. So we have tort. Tort is a civil wrong, you know, other than a breach of contract or a breach of trust, and is a duty fixed by law on all persons. Road users, act negligibly, negligently. The law of tort, therefore, is concerned with those situations where the conduct of one party threatens or causes harm on the to the interest of another party. That's what law of tort is. So you have trust, generally defined as an equitable obligation imposing on one imposing on one or more persons, you know, on the duty of dealing with property over control, benefit, and personal. Just basically trust, equitable obligation. An equitable obligation whereby it is required that the next person should be as open and as accountable to the other party when it comes to transacting. So you have source of law. Law invariably derived from a number of sources, including custom, judicial precedent, legislation, and international and supranational bodies. So we have law derived from custom. Early society developed particular forms of behavior, particular form of behavior which are referred to as custom, which came which which came to be accepted as social norms to be followed by a number of community which they applied. So we have today custom would be regarded as usage recognized law, whether by judicial precedent, which is the case law. Judicial precedent is also referred to as the case law, or through statutory inventory, and hence they are largely historical interest. So we have judicial precedents. Much of Nigerian law is derived from judicial precedents, previous decisions of the court. That's what judicial precedent means. Previous decisions of the court in cases. Now, in essence, judicial precedent is based on the rule that the previous decisions of a higher court must be followed by lower courts. Hence, the significance of the court structure. So that's what that's all about. And we have legislation, a substantial portion of court current law, including law governing the operations of business organizations, are derived from legislation or statute. Now in the initiative in this sphere lies effectively with the government of the day, which can virtually guarantee a bill will become law. If before a law becomes a law, it has to go through a lot of processes. So it's definitely a bill that when it's been scrutinized and a lot of persons accept it, gone to a process, it becomes a law. So you have the legal system. Basically, the legal system is more of system that can be said to have two main functions: provide and enabling merchandise within such individuals and organizations that exist now. Provide means of resolving conflicts, peace, enable peace, and how to resolve conflicts between parties. And these functions are carried out by various of institutions, including the government, the courts. You know, you have organization, business organization, and the business organization have been described as transformers to input. Business organizations have been described. Okay, yeah, I think that's better. Business organizations have been described as transformers of inputs into output, in the sense that they acquire and use resources to produce goods or services. its influence has a lot of influence on businesses. So you as a business person, you have to know the law concerning your business, the law that guides your business, the law that you should act. What are the things that is required of you as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, the things that is required of you. You should also educate yourself in this aspect. It's very, very important. So we have examples of businesses, examples of business activities and the legal influences. So you have business activities and the examples of legal influences. First, to establish an organization, you need to know company laws, partnership, and business names. Now, acquiring resources, planning law, property law, contract, agency, business operation, employment law, health and safety law, contract agency, customer law, and contracts. So we have contract laws. Contract laws, the essentials. All businesses enter into contracts, whether with suppliers or employees or financiers or customers. So now, and these contracts will be important and possibly crucial to the firm operation. Such contracts are essentially agreements or oral or written between two or more persons which are legally enforceable. When you're going into contracts, there has to be either oral or written agreement. And this the agreements are legally forcible, provided they comprise a number of essential elements. These elements are offer. There has to be an offer and an agreement. There has to be an acceptance, consideration, intention to create legal relationship, and capacity. So what is an offer? Bodies, before parties enter into a contractual relationship, they usually engage in an informal relationship which may or may not result in a contract, depending. Offer just has to do with an agreement. It's what I'm offering. Are you accepting? So it's a declaration, by the offerer to and the offeree. Declaration by two persons, offerer and offeree. Just like we have the employer and the employee. So the offerer is the person giving the offer. The offeree is the person accepting the offer. And this declaration is that they intend to be legally bound by stated terms and conditions. So we have so terminations of an offer can happen in several ways. Clearly, an offer is ended when it is accepted, but that apart, an offer may be revoked by. Okay, I think that's a mix-up somewhere. An offer can end when one party did not meet up to the condition. The other party can end the offer. Speaking about acceptance, accept of an offer by a person. Acceptance is a bit self-explanatory. So consideration now refers to the price which each side pays and the advantages or benefits each side enjoys. So if you are agreeing to a contract, so the consideration now are the benefits or the advantages you get by accepting a contract. So we have intention to create legal relation. Now, not every agreement is intended to create a legal binding relationship. For example, most domestic agreements, such as division of household chores, would not constitute a contract recognized in the law. Now, in commercial agreement, however, it is generally accepted that both parties intend to make legally binding contracts, and therefore it is unnecessary to include terms to this effect. Such a presumption be challenged, burden proof research. Okay, so intention. So there's some contract definitely that you don't intend to be legally binding, but when it comes to business, you should be intend to be legally binding. So that if one person does not keep up, the other person can sue the other person. Capacity. A contract may be valid, voidable, or void. And one of the factors which determines this is the contractual capacity of the respective party of the agreement to the agreement. So that your contract can either be void or valid. So that's that for that. So we have agency as a business activity has become more specialized and complex. Firms have increasingly turned to outside English. Now, agency now are talking about specialists, functions such as freight forwarding, overseas representation, insurance broking, and commercial letting. Now, agencies, these individuals are authorized by individual organizations hiring them known as principal to act on their behalf. Talking about contract now, we have agencies. Agencies specialized individuals or institutions that act as agents. There has to be, when we talk about agents now, there has to be a principal and there has to be an agent. Now the principal is the one giving the go ahead, giving the agent the authority to act on his or her behalf. So now the agent is coming as a specialized person, as an expert to act as an agent on behalf of the principal. Just like we have the offeree and the offeror in contract, except you know, in offer. So we have that as that. So we have law and the consumer. So we have the neoclassic economic theory tends to suggest that laws to protect the consumers are unnecessary. However, that's the neoclassical economics. It says law to protect consumers are unnecessary, which I strongly disagree. However, modern economics, in particular behavioral economics, have shown that the traditional assumption of working markets is not necessarily reliable. So regulation is sometimes required. Definitely has to be regulation things. If individuals are behaving rationally when consuming goods and services, they would arrange their consumption to maximize their satisfaction, which is utility. Utility is the same thing as satisfaction. Words of an economist. Now, products which becomes of poor quality or some other factors reduce consumers favor those that prove to be better. Alternative in this one act as incentive to producers to provide the best. Now, in effect, market forces would ensure that interest of the consumers was safeguarded. That's what it is basically, safeguarding the interest of consumers. It's all about safeguarding the interest of consumers. So we have that as that. So existing laws to protect consumers are both civil and criminal, and the relative rights, duties, and liabilities have been created or imposed by common law. Now, significantly, examples below illustrate a large element of current consumer law and are resulted from statistician inventions much of in the last 30 years now. Indeed, a sizable quality of consumers protection law comes from continental organizations like ECOWAS. We have the European Union, which is EU. We have by these laws covering areas of diverse trade, distribution, sales of goods and services. All this law, they cover areas like trade, distribution, sales of goods and services, consumer credit, and product liability. So all this we have. So we have Europe. Europe is keen to encouraging consumers to take advantage of cross-border EU markets, European markets, cross-border European Union markets by harmonizing consumers' protection. To this end, Europe has been adopting consumer protection directives. So we have that as that. So now, business operates within the confines of a legal framework. Definitely, laws not only constrains business activity but also assist it. It protects it as well. The legal environment is supposed to provide a reasonable degree of certainty and stability in the conduct of business activities. Let's take that again. A legal environment is supposed to provide a reasonable degree of certainty and stability in the conduct of business activities. Now, both the businesses themselves and the consumers and the large society are guided and protected by relevant laws of the land. So, so we have the summary. Organizations are guided in its operation by the law of the land and in which it operates. Now, the source of this law could be custom of the land. I'm talking about the source of this law now, but the custom of the land, judicial precedents, that's decisions whereby a higher court has taken on a previous case. So then becomes the lower courts now follow in this footstep. Then it becomes judicial precedents and legislation among others. Unfortunately, many managers are not aware of potential legal risks associated with traditional managerial decisions like recruiting, hiring, and firing. Companies also face potential legal risks from customers initiated lawsuits. Now, business managers must therefore try as much as possible to understand the laws of the country in which they operate. So thank you very much. I think that brings us up so we can avoid the pitfalls. So I think that is that for that. And in our next class, we're moving on to module 3. So in less than, I think in our next class should be running up with this course. Yeah, in our next class should be running up with ENT, 101. So in our next class we'll be talking about treating courses for module 3, which is the business environment. It has about 5 units. Economic environment, technological environment, demographic forces, cultural environment, environmental scanning. So thank you very much, guys. This brings us to the end of today's tutorial. Next tutorial will be on Tuesday, because tomorrow I'll be going to work. I'll be coming up very late. So Tuesday, taking module 3, and hopefully we can have 2 classes as well, just like we have today. If you can continue like this, it will be good. So in less than 2 days, depending on how voluminous the material is. So less than 2 days we can. So as soon as pen and paper are done with their exam, in less than a week, CBT will also start the exam, and I think by then we can start. By then we should be done with our material, and if we finish before they finish their exam, then we can start with the past questions already. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for sticking around. I believe we are all preparing for exams, and we are studying very hard. I am always of the opinion that you should study very hard. There are not 2 ways to things passing your exam. The only way to passing your exam is studying very hard. It will definitely pay off. When you sit before your system, attempt the questions without fear or distress, or you don't have to bother anybody. It has a long way to go. Yeah. It starts in June. So let's just keep studying. What we do over time becomes a part of us. Let's keep studying. Let's not wait until exam starts. It might take up to 2 months, but nevertheless, start preparing now. Let the preparation start now. So thank you very much, guys. It's been a great class tonight, and I look forward to seeing you in subsequent classes. Good night.